weather, some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia.
You wanted the best, you got the best from my home studio on Long Island, New York. Welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto, and another one bites the dust, unfortunately. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, yet another, I'd say, at this point, legendary smaller rock venue, smaller rock club is closing its doors for good, it looks like. And that is none other than Counts Vamp'd in Las Vegas. I say legendary, but it's not the Whiskey A Go-Go. It's not something that's been around for decades and decades. But it is a club that really caters not only to rock fans, but 80s rock fans in particular. And that's what most of this audience is. That's what I cater to the most, although I try to be very versatile with many different forms of rock that I'm interested in, that we cover here. But yeah, that was the type of club where if you were in Las Vegas and you wanted to see a national act that was touring on the smaller level, LA Guns, those types of bands, Sebastian Bach, that was the venue to be at. And I did get a chance to experience Counts Vamp'd in Las Vegas. As I've mentioned before on this channel, I tend to visit Las Vegas about once per year on average. And any of you who do a wide variety of things professionally probably know. I mean, not only is it the entertainment mecca, but it is really the trade show mecca. So if you're in any type of industry that has trade shows, conventions, that is really where it all goes down. So whether it was SHOT Show, which I've done for work, or at times working at cybersecurity companies, not in the cybersecurity realm, but I was at conventions for that as well. And every year I would always see if my visit lined up with any shows at Counts Vamp'd. And truthfully, I only got to visit one time, but it was a fucking awesome time. I've mentioned them on the show before when we spoke about Rat, and that is quite a while back. We're talking over a decade ago. There was a band that played at Counts Vamp'd several times a week, and they were called the Sin City Sinners. And Brent Muscat from Faster Pussycat was in the band, along with some other really talented musicians. And they would do a set of, like, you'd hear an AC/DC song, and then you'd hear a Motley Crue song, and it catered to that, Van Halen. But the really cool thing about them is whether someone actually lived in Vegas or was visiting Vegas from that scene that was in a prominent band, they would bring them up on stage. And when I was there, the one time I got to do this, it was actually the lead singer of Babylon AD. So if you were a nerd for this genre, as I often say that I am, like, that was the band to see. And then they would actually go on to form a band, because those guys would go on to tour with Rat when it was Bobby Blotzer's Rat. I did a whole video on that. I'm not going to get into all of that. But after that, they changed the name from the Sin City Sinners to, I believe, the Sin City Sinners All-Stars. But as weird of a name as it was a pretty fucking cool band, because you had Jizzy Pearl on vocals, you had Blas Elias, amazing drummer from Slaughter, on drums, the guitarist from Stryper. Like, I remember it was a really killer lineup. So, like, yes, several times a week, you'd be able to go out to Vegas, or if you lived in Vegas, go to Counts Vamp'd and see them. Now, it's been a long time, as I said, since they've been around, but if you would look at the Counts Vamp'd schedule every month, sure enough, you would see multiple 80s rock shows. And yeah, more and more rock clubs are going away, no matter where you live. But let's get into Counts Vamp'd in particular. I learned about this news through Eddie Trunk's Instagram, and Eddie Trunk lives part-time in New Jersey, part-time in Las Vegas, so this place was a fixture for him. And he writes on here, "So bummed to wake up to this news today that one of my favorite spots in Vegas is for sale and closing. Can't begin to tell you the great times and shows I have seen here, going back to before it was even called Vamp'd Vegas." I was going to get into that, but since he mentions that, I believe it was Dr. Feelgood's, and it was owned by the great Vince Neil, from what I read a while back. And he is the great Vince Neil. I know some of you guys may be like, well, you slammed him a little bit on that video. Look, Vince Neil and Motley Crue changed my life in many ways. I am a mega fan. I keep it real on this channel, but I wouldn't talk about this stuff if I wasn't a mega fan. So yeah, I believe it was Dr. Feelgood's. I think it was like Dr. Feelgood's Bar and Grill. Vince Neil has owned multiple businesses throughout the Vegas Strip, or, the Vegas, outside the Vegas Strip, I should say, but the Vegas area. He had Vince Neil Inc., and you can still find Vince Neil Inc. like t-shirts and hats. He had a tattoo shop out there. Really cool merchandise, though, that you can still find in like Etsy and eBay every now and again. Vince Neil's done it all. I mean, he symbolizes Vegas. But back to like, I'm just thinking to me in my head, like, the drinking, the gambling, the drugs, the sex. That's Vince Neil, and the eating. Let's not forget that one. The man likes to, indulge. All right, so he writes, thank you, Danny, Corey, and staff for the amazing times and hospitality, and thanks Chuck Brennan of Dollar Loan Center for giving the place the proper send-off, which you'll see here, hoping whatever the future holds for the place, it includes rock and honors the legacy. So yeah, Dollar Loan Center will be holding these last few shows. If you are in Vegas for any reason, or if you live there, go out to these shows. Awesome lineup, killer 80s bands, and yeah, I mean, if you're able to make these, but what I was going to say is I've seen that several of these are sold out from their Facebook page. So if you could still go and have the proper send off for these guys. So yeah, it says at the top of this flyer, CB and the whole Dollar Loan Center team would like to thank Danny and Corey for bringing rock to Las Vegas for the past 16 years. It counts. Vamp'd Rock Bar and Grill. Celebrate the end of an era in style as we proudly present the following 4 amazing events. So since it's been there 16 years, I was probably there in the earlier days. I must have been there within the first 5 years, I would say, of its existence. May 30th, Faster Pussycat and Vane. And shout out, kudos to Tammy Down. When I did the video about the tragic death of his fiance, I said it's probably going to be a long time until you see Faster Pussycat back on stage. They're back at it, man. They already had a show. It sounded killer. They're touring. And I don't think that means Tammy is over this death, but I think he's just trucking along. And you got to give the guys props for doing so. And the band sounds great as ever. So go see them. Go support Faster Pussycat, especially Tammy Down, after the tragedy he had to endure of his girlfriend dying right in front of him. Tragic. But back to this. June 10th, you got Warren DeMartini and Stephen Pearcy of Rat, which I still haven't seen yet. I probably should have gone to the Mohegan Sun show, but hopefully get a chance to see them both. But I did just see Stephen Pearcy in January or December, right before the new year at the Whiskey A Go-Go. June 18th, you got Night Ranger. June 27th, you've got The Great Loverboy. And it says June 28th, the last show ever. And it looked like it was cropped out from this photo. So I went to the website and it's not listed. So I guess that it's a surprise of what the last show ever will be. I'm sure it'll be epic. So yeah, they're closing their doors just about 1 month from now. The great Sebastian Bach has spent many times at Counts Vamp'd, and he wrote a whole send-off here on his Instagram. Vamp'd Vegas is more than a rock club. I've always said that Vamp'd in Vegas is the rainbow of Las Vegas, and he's referring, of course, to the rainbow next to the Whiskey A Go-Go in Los Angeles. A place where you could just go, where everybody knows your name, and everybody's glad you came, like that song says. I can't even begin to fathom how many times me and his wife Suzanne went to Vamp'd to enjoy friends and family. Sometimes we didn't even know what band was playing, which it's always cool when there's a club like that where it's like you just want to be there. It's almost like the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. You're like, I don't know who's on the bill, but it's going to be a fun time. That's how you know a place is legendary and awesome. Las Vegas without Vamp'd is like having a huge black hole in the middle of the city. There's nowhere else that we all go as rockers to hang out and meet up and hear some music. Not only that, but Corey and Danny were cool enough to let us film the Freedom video at Vamp'd, so at least we have that to remember it by. I didn't know that. Maybe we could show some of the Freedom video at Vamp'd as we're talking about this, which would be cool. This really sucks. I could never imagine this happening. Don't know what you got till it's gone indeed. We will always have great memories of Vamp'd. Thank you, Corey and Danny and Donnie, all at Vamp'd for 16 years of rock and roll. Hashtag this sucks. Hashtag I hate this post. And yeah, you see a bunch of, I was just seeing if there's any major names here in the comments, band Crashing Wayward. But I'm sure that many, many bands who have played there are really bummed, and especially if you live in Las Vegas, because in many ways Las Vegas has become as they say about like Times Square here in New York City, it's like Disney World. It's all the big things, right? And it doesn't have that gritty Vegas feel. And we are losing more and more rock clubs that cater to those types of bands, the bands that I just mentioned that are playing there for its final month. And like here in New York, I could tell you just here on Long Island, I remember, and I have a lot of Long Island viewers who seem to comment, so you guys will know exactly what landmarks I'm talking about. And there's a ton from before I was born. I know like places in Bayshore that Vinnie Vincent Invasion played. I was too young for all that, but of the places I got to see, the downtown, Farmingdale, gone. Great venue. I saw Vince Neil there. One of my first 80s rock, hair metal shows that changed my life, that changed the trajectory of my life. No hyperbole there. The Crazy Donkey, also I believe in Farmingdale. Great venue, had a great outdoor area. Saw many, many shows there. Dope, great show with them. I remember seeing, saw Vince Neil there. Saw John Corabi. No, John Corabi was another venue, which we'll get into that one next. Revolution in Amityville. That's where I saw John Corabi. Gone. New York City, no more Roseland Ballroom. And just the past year, I would say actually like a year and a half ago, I saw the last few shows that Hatebreed did at in Poughkeepsie at the Chance, which is truly a legendary venue that's been around for decades. Gone. It was kind of sad driving out there to Poughkeepsie because it's about an hour and a half from here. I don't ever have a reason to go out there other than the Chance. And when I drove out there for Hatebreed, I was like, man, this will be the last time I'm ever making this drive. I have no reason to go out there. I often say Mohegan Sun by me on the channel. So if you guys don't know the area, you might think, oh, it's 45 minutes from you. No, Mohegan Sun is actually it's in Connecticut. It's about 3 hours from me. But the reason I love it is because they really cater to the 80s rock acts, much like Vamp'd. Like, you could go there any given month and you're going to see a couple of 80s rock bands play the Wolf Den. And it's not the stadium acts. It's not the arena acts. It's the smaller bands that have been around and are still putting in work on the club level and still in the bus or van. And we're losing more and more of this, just like we're losing 80s rock in general, because a lot of these bands, how much longer are they going to be around? 5 years, 10 years? And I think they're what keeps many of these clubs going, because you got the 90s rock acts too. You got the 2000s bands like Puddle of Mudd who are still doing it. But what's going to come after that? I mean, there are still rock bands who are doing really well and successful. Of course, you got Ghost, you got Turnstile, a lot of other great bands. But I feel like this Gen Z generation and then Gen Alpha have really embraced this metaverse universe, right? And I interviewed John Dolmayan from System of a Down a while back on the other show that I've been a part of since 2019, Battle Line Podcast, which actually made international news. Not for this, but I remember we were talking about this whole thing, and John said, hey, truthfully, I think in a few years you'll be able to put on the headset and you can be front row seeing Led Zeppelin. And he said that before AI got as crazy as it did. This interview wasn't recent at all. So we're very close to that. And I will never embrace that. But a lot of people, it's like the frog in boiling water. They'll slowly get used to it, because if you look at like where I live, for example, there were two great movie theaters. I grew up going to all these amazing movies I have like fond memories of going with my friends. I have fond memories of buying a ticket to some PG rated movie as a kid and then sneaking into Detroit Rock City with my friend and sneaking into one of the Scream movies as a young teenager. Both of those are gone. People are embracing just streaming everything at home, and very soon putting on the VR headset, and it's just like I'm at the concert. And I do not want to live in that world, and I think a lot of you guys don't want to live in that world. And I would say the amount of rock venues just here where I am on Long Island, we still have like 3 great ones for some reason, all in Patchogue. I don't know why, that are like all in walking distance of each other. We've still got Amityville Music Hall, but it's basically been cut in half. And in New York City, it's been cut in half. Since the pandemic, for sure. Revolution was one of those that was a victim of the pandemic. Also probably the Chance, because that closed in recent years. And you got to wonder what is going on, man. So all I could say is if you are a rock fan, see these bands, and especially for bands on the club level, for the most part, you can't make the excuse of, oh, ticket prices have gotten so high, because a club like Vamp'd or comparable clubs in your area, usually it's like 25 bucks at the door, maybe 50 at the most, and you'll get to see a kick-ass rock show. These are not the bands that are charging upwards of hundreds of dollars to go see them. So, yeah, support these bands before they're gone, because they are going to be gone before you know it. Time is very fleeting and time flies, and I want to continue to do this channel, and I want to be able to continue to talk about these bands who are hitting the road and touring and the scene. I don't want the scene to die out. So go out and support RIP Vamp'd. I really hope, as Eddie Trunk said, that maybe someone will be able to buy this venue that is now for sale and make it a rock club. But I mean, if it wasn't lucrative enough to keep as Vamp'd, I kind of doubt it's going to be a rock venue. It's probably going to be something else. And prices of things always go up. I know there's a million excuses you can make of like, well, I don't want to pay $10 for a beer. I could just hang out here at my house and put something on the TV. But great memories are made when you're out with friends, meeting new people, and seeing rock shows. They're some of the best times in my life, and I don't want it to die. With that, if you're new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hey, tell me in the comments RIP to whatever venues that you used to visit, because I'm sure no matter what state you're watching, if you're in the US or probably some of you in Canada or even Mexico, you probably have a rock venue or 10 that are no longer in existence that you have some fond memories of. So I'd love to read them in the comments. With that, if you want to check out the merch store, we've got great stuff up there. Limited edition merch keeps us going. And if you want to watch some more great content on Ian Scotto Rocks, just click right here. And let's make sure rock never dies.